Good evening, folks, and welcome to the Top 10 Action Movies. Yes, I know my channel is kind of more on the horror-based side of things, but I do love me a good action movie. So this is my picks for the top 10 action movies of all time. And I am going to be excluding superhero movies because that's a genre in itself. I'm going to be excluding martial arts movies because that's a genre in itself. And I'm going to be excluding the Rocky films because my favorite Rocky movies are the first two movies, and I consider them to be drama, not action. So here we go with a couple honorable mentions. First one is going to be my favorite guilty pleasure movie of all time. That's Commando, starring Arnold Schwarzenegger and Alyssa Milano. Such an incredibly fun movie. It's just chock full of cheesy Arnold one-liners, and it's just so much fun. And it's basically a Rambo knockoff, but it's so much fun. Next honorable mention would be Jurassic Park, a great movie from the legendary Steven Spielberg with incredible special effects that are just groundbreaking, and an amazing cast with, Sam Neill, Laura Dern, Jeff Goldblum. Just a movie that just holds up so well today. Next up, you could kind of put this in the martial arts genre, but I'd say it's more of a buddy cop action movie. But it's so much fun. It's my favorite buddy cop movie of all time, and that's Rush Hour. Alright, let's get to the top 10. In at number 10 is going to be Dirty Harry. And I love all the films in the Dirty Harry franchise, but I am going to go with the original film from 1971, starring the badass Clint Eastwood as Dirty Harry Callahan. I mean, is there a more badass cop, I wish we had a cop like that in real life, to just take out the bad guy, once and for all. Judge, jury, and executioner. Next up, we have the legendary Predator from Arnold Schwarzenegger, of course. And what's equally awesome about this movie is the badass design of the villain, the Predator himself. So creative, the design of the character. The thing is just sick. It's awesome. And at the same time, it's another badass, Arnold Schwarzenegger movie chock full of cheesy one-liners and just great action and over-the-top stuff. And next up we have Escape from New York from the legendary John Carpenter, starring the legendary Kurt Russell in the role of Snake Plissken, one of the most iconic characters in action movie history, in my opinion. We don't talk about the sequel, but amazing cast with Donald Pleasance, Ernest Borgnine, Adrienne Barbeau, Harry Dean Stanton. Phenomenal movie. It's one of my favorite post-apocalyptic future films. And yes, you have to represent James Bond in there somewhere. I had to. And I'm going to go with The Spy Who Loved Me, which I have as part of the Roger Moore collection. And yes, I am a Roger Moore guy. And that's my favorite Roger Moore James Bond film, The Spy Who Loved Me. And next up we have the legendary Aliens. Yes, the sequel to Alien, which I actually do prefer the original Alien from 1979, but that was more of a sci-fi horror film, whereas Aliens, I would say, is more sci-fi action. Great direction by James Cameron, phenomenal with the creature design, and I believe Stan Winston worked on the creature design on this film. Amazing job. And of course, Sigourney Weaver is once again absolutely awesome in the role of Ellen Ripley, and she was actually nominated for an Oscar for her performance. Next up, I always have a hard time picking one of these movies over the other, so I'm going to call it a tie. I'm including both, and that is Mad Max and Mad Max 2: The Road Warrior. just equally badass. And Mad Max, the original film, is definitely on a smaller scale. It's more of a low-budget film, but it's still a great revenge movie, you know. Mad Max getting his revenge on these outlaw biker gang who killed his wife and child. And then the Road Warrior, you got more of a grander scale with the action for sure. It's got a bigger budget, but it's still badass. And I love Mel Gibson in the role of Mad Max Rockatansky. And next up, I'm going with RoboCop. Absolutely love this movie. Amazing action, and sometimes I forget how brutal this movie is. There's some really gory, bloody, violent scenes in this movie. And you got Peter Weller in the role of Murphy. And yeah, when Murphy gets killed when he's a police officer, it's brutal. They shoot his arm off. You know, they really do a number on him. But he certainly gets his revenge. And of course, you gotta love that classic scene with Ed 209. You know, you have 5 seconds to comply, and then he blasts the shit out of everyone in the room. And of course, you gotta have Die Hard in there, you know. Absolutely phenomenal movie. I mean, everybody loves Die Hard. Is there anybody who doesn't love Die Hard? Now, I'm not the biggest Bruce Willis fan, but I cannot deny how great Die Hard is, the original movie. And Bruce Willis is great in this movie. And as is Alan Rickman, such a great villain, played by Alan Rickman as Hans Gruber. And the setting on the skyscraper is such a great setting for the action movie, you know. Awesome movie. And at number 2, of course, is The Terminator. And yes, I do consider the original Terminator to be the best. I'm one of those guys. From 1984, the original classic directed by James Cameron, starring Arnold Schwarzenegger as the Killing Machine. The T-800 Series Model 101. And, yeah, I prefer a badass killing machine Arnold because I think he's just perfect in that role. And he's just terrifying as the Terminator, you know. An absolutely unstoppable killing machine. And you might be wondering, where is Sylvester Stallone on this list? Well, here he is at the tippy top, First Blood. Yes, the original classic from 1982 is my favorite action film of all time. Phenomenal movie, and Stallone is phenomenal in this movie. Just gives one of his greatest performances. And what an amazing supporting cast with Brian Dennehy as Will Teasel, such a great villainous, sheriff. And I love Richard Crenna in the role of Colonel Troutman. He's almost like the Dr. Loomis of the series, where he provides all the exposition he's always telling everyone how badass John Rambo is and how dangerous he is. And, I love that stuff, I didn't come here to save Rambo from you. I came to save you from him. Amazing action in this movie. Some great car chase scenes. I love the whole final act when he's just blasting the shit out of the whole town, with the M60 machine gun. And there you have it, guys. That's my top 10 action films of all time. And thank you for joining me, Sean Patrick Erschen.